So,
Okay.
so hello, everyone, and welcome to a Trueface conversation. My name is Monique Woodward, and joining me here on my side is my husband, Vic Woodward, who is the co-founder of Marriage Mosaic. We happen to work together as well in that area. And joining us today, we have Greg and Aaron McCall from Billings, Montana, to talk about the oh so fun topic of triggers in marriage.
Yeah.
So Greg and Aaron, welcome. And then Vic, I don't know if you want to jump into as well a little bit.
Yeah, just thank you for setting this up, my dear. And we're looking forward to the conversation. We live in Burlington, Washington, which is like 60 miles north of Seattle. And we have 5 grown adult children and 4 grandchildren who some live near us, some live far. So we get to do some long distance grandparenting.
Yeah.
But we're working it out.
And along with our work with Trueface, or I've worked for Trueface, but Vic and I have been in marriage ministry for about 23 years now.
23 years.
And really have been integrated with Trueface materials for many years before I began working for them. So we thought it'd be kind of fun because we have that kind of crossover between Marriage Mosaic and Trueface with the two of you. I want to just jump in and tell everybody a little bit about yourselves.
Cool. Go ahead. Start.
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, we are Aaron and Greg McCall.
I just wondered if that was a trigger
No.
for me to just throw you on the spot
I'm
like
totally diving right now. Okay, so we're like Vic and Mo said, we're from Billings, Montana. And let's see. So as far as our family's concerned, we have 4 kids. There are 2 adult children, which is interesting learning how to walk alongside that, and then 2 in later high school years. So we are in a very interesting stage of our marriage because we've gone from high intense parenting 4 kids to more coaching, walking alongside and cheerleading our kids. And it's a different ballgame. So we also have a bonus son because our oldest daughter is married. And so, we're not grandparents yet, but at some point.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
I was just going to say, I married her 25 years ago. Okay, so you guys
we just
celebrated our 25th anniversary, and oftentimes, and Vic, I know we've already discussed this. We can relate to the, having married a girl that's outside your league a little bit, and I get people all the time that look at me and go like, "Huh, that's interesting," but okay. Somehow you managed that, and
join you in that, Greg.
I know we've talked about you're in the club, bud. Guys that can knock it out of the park, out of the league. So anyway, I've been married for 25 years and really have loved the Trueface journey that we've been on. I say that, but also like the actual some of the different tools and things that we've learned from Trueface, including the Trueface journey, and to this topic in particular about triggers, it really brings to mind the book that we've all talked about, How We Love, and where do we go in our stories sometimes, and for some of us, those reactions, they're usually triggers that are causing us to do some of the things that we do. For me, I'm a recovering pleaser. And so, man, when I get triggered, I can find myself in this place of, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm going to fail. I'm going to let Aaron down. I'm going to let people down at work. I'm going to let my clients down. I don't really have what it takes. And so this pleaser thing in me triggers, and I start down this cycle that I've just, my crazy cycle, right? And so anyhow, as we've been studying and learning and beginning to understand one another's stories, I think that for me has been one of the most transformational things for me inside of our marriage, and for me to understand, okay, I know Aaron's story. I know these are things that could trigger her. And so I'm beginning to learn how to not feed those as much, and maybe to be a little more aware of my own. So
I was just going to say, even as Greg and I were processing through this idea of triggers within marriage and just the correlation with the Trueface journey that we've been in. And of course, like we've said, we've gotten to do some really great things with you guys, like Grace Changes Everything and some retreats where we've just gotten into the good, the bad, and the ugly of marriage. And, but man, just walking, like thinking back of all the tools that you actually do get in the journey with the different books you read and the understanding your own story, like Greg said, I'm like, it has all contributed to like actually catapulting our marriage into a more healthy, I would say, state of awareness, and being able to like, oh, let's just call it what it is. Then we can deal with it, you know? So yeah, it's been a lot of great tools that we've gotten, not only from you two who are, been a godsend for us in bouncing ideas off of, but also the journey. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, as we were driving Sunday, you were talking about just, I think, is listening to Greg and Aaron share about not being alone, right? You were just saying it's common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I just think that's such an important piece that we can offer one another, is being present, and the other couple experiences the reality that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I was listening to, and for those of you listening to this call, we began a marriage collective in the Trueface Life app. And so how we love being part of the Trueface journey. So we've added different resources in the marriage collective, but also some different podcasts. Mm-hmm. And so I was re-listening to that podcast I had sent you from Dan Allender, mm-hmm. And Steve and Lisa Call, just on triggers in marriage, and how he talks about how it can happen in, I don't know if he said in a nanosecond, but mm-hmm. going along, having this great moment mm-hmm. in our marriage or with our family. And within a split second, we've gone from like here, we're just like plummeting. Yeah. And it's just like, wait, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of disheartening and feel like, wow, what is the story? And Aaron, you've said this before, like, what's the story I'm telling myself? Is there a lie underneath this I'm telling myself about me or my spouse? But to kind of just stop in that moment and go, wow, where is this coming from? Especially if it's like disproportionate, mm-hmm. right? Like Mylan and Kay Yurkovich say with How We Love, if it's hysterical, it's historical.
Yeah, love that.
I think that's so true, because so many times, just like you said, you'll be going on and all of a sudden you're aware that something changed in the conversation, like either I would say emotionally, instantly, I'll typically, because I can be an avoider, I'll shut down if I get triggered. So I just but you can feel it in your body starts to tense. You can feel it in the atmosphere, like what just happened. But a lot of times I think what we used to do is brush it aside, not acknowledge it, kind of pretend like we're just going to keep going on. But then you just kind of have this like a broken moment in your marriage or your relationship where there is just a little bit of a pulling away, because you're just like, well, that kind of hurt. And I don't even actually know where that came from. But being aware of your body and the whole atmosphere of what's happening and going, okay, wait, hold on. Something just happened. And now let's like put a name to it. Because I think for so many years I would get triggered and I wouldn't actually even know that I was triggered, and I would just keep going and it would just build and build and build. And then all of a sudden I had so much that it was just like, bleh! Or if I would have just stopped in that second and go, wait, hold on. Let's just address this really quick, because something did not sit right with me. I was just triggered right there, because like in that podcast you sent, Mo, and it was just validation for me. Everybody gets triggered. We all have a trigger. So we are either it's going to be a fear trigger, I think, an emotional trigger, a trauma response to something that happens. So these things happen and they can be so subtle and so quick. And I think that's just like the enemy, right? Oh, this is really not that big of a deal, but it kind of is. So you've got to like really address it. So I think we've started to go, hey, did that just trigger you? Where that, we're like, oh, I guess it did. It did trigger me. Oh gosh, Mm-hmm. So being aware of your body and what's happening and just calling a spade. Okay, that was triggering. Then you can deal with it. Because I don't know if we're getting faster, better. We're not there yet, but we're getting faster at identifying them. Don't you think?
Right. And I think to your point too, like when you like, I love it. If it's hysterical, it's historical. That's so great. Because I can think of times where that cycle that we go through where I may say, for example, I've triggered Erin, and then she would go to this place of avoiding, and so she would just shut down and she'd withdraw. And even though, like she's saying, in her body she's feeling this, I can sense it too. I can sense there, oh
Yeah.
that's something. I just said something, I did now my pleaser then would come out. Oh boy, okay, what did I do wrong? I'm sorry, did I need to? And immediately, even if I've not necessarily done something wrong, possibly, maybe I have, but maybe not. um I, my own self-defense would be back to, well, let's just try to make everything okay for everybody. I just wanted to let me fix it. And when she would withdraw, so then now we're spiraling.
Right.
So now we're both triggered. And and so I remember specifically there was one day, and so I'm a home builder too. So I build homes, and predominantly build more affordable homes. And we really have our mission is to try to help people find community within our neighborhoods that we do. So I'm hyper vigilant and focused on those aspects of home building. And I can be easily triggered when, if for some reason Erin doesn't like what the home building thing that I do, or the mission behind what I'm doing, if I don't feel like he is completely with me 100% of the time on it, then I can feel like, well, I must be failing. I must see, there we go again. And in this one day, sort of, like in marriage, right? We always have these little stories that are wrapped up in our homes. I love helping people with their home, because it's like marriage counseling all the time, right? Well,
Yeah.
we definitely need two sinks because, man, we can't share, that was a problem in our last house. And so we have this big walk-in closet with these stacked washer and dryers. They were new washer and dryers. Was I hyper vigilant in all of the features that these washer and dryers should have had or could have had? No. I just told our appliance guy, we just need some washers and dryers. So we got these washer and dryers. They honestly, they were a pain in the butt. They're fancy, like they can Wi-Fi, and they can tell your phone when they're done.
You guys, they are the worst.
We're not going to name the brand because it's, but
so every time that we would do laundry, I would look at him. I'm like, I hate these washer and dryers. And I'm just thinking, we're just making a statement. Our clothes smell. Like, why are we, I'm just thinking we both agree, like, these are dumb washer and dryers, right? But instantly, he's just like, his eyes raise, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And he starts getting defensive a little bit.
Yeah.
And I start going, are you serious right now? Are you getting triggered because I just said I hate our washer and dryer? Unfortunately, that's how I said it. Not that. Like, are you serious right now? Which would have been better if I would have said, oh, babe, is that statement making you feel a certain way? I didn't.
Yeah. So it was kind of as far as triggers go, it was kind of bang, bang.
Yeah. Once you trigger, you might just start triggering each other like this.
Yeah.
Like rapid fire.
Because so first I'm triggered because I feel like I'm letting my wife down. I'm dumb. I chose the wrong washer and dryer. These things do suck. They're kind of a pain in the butt. They're too technical. They don't work great. Blah, 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 all the things. And also, clearly, I must be bad at my job and the work that I do also, because if anybody should know, it should be the home builder, what types of things are really important to go in these homes. So I'm just now, and then she makes the face at me and says, did that just trigger you? And those are exactly her words. And I'm like, so are you actually saying, are you really that dumb? And so now I'm triggered again, because this is my main trigger cycle I go through, where I feel like I'm not competent. I'm not going to be capable. I'm not smart, and I'm letting you down. So I was.
Yeah. Well, and then it's interesting because, so you're aware now of a trigger because you're noticing you guys you're getting into conflict a little bit. Our bodies are starting to, where our voices are elevating. We're starting to kind of, and this is over a stupid thing like a washer and dryer. But in the moment, there's deeper things there, right? That's always a deeper thing. It's like a trigger always leads to something that's in us that's not healed, or an identity that we're not agreeing with who God says we are, and we've allowed a lie into, and we started to believe this lie. So that's why triggers are so tricky, because it seems like not a big deal, but there is always a deeper work that the enemy's trying to do with who we are. And so my trigger then was him, with me even saying, I hate these washers and dryers, and him saying, what, I don't even remember what you said. Mine goes to, wow, you are such a discontent wife. And you're a complainer and you're high maintenance, because you should just be happy that you have a washer and dryer. And not only that, you have another one upstairs that your kids use. So, wow, who are you as a woman and a person and a godly woman that is not appreciative of what you have? So I instantly go to shame of, you're a discontent person. So these are all identity statements. So my identity went from just saying, I hate these washer and dryers, to I'm a discontent person that's not grateful, that really is high maintenance, and all these things. So I start believing all these lies. And so that's what these things do inside your marriage. And for us to be able to identify, oh gosh, hold on, just take a time out here for just a second. You just got triggered because you think that you're not enough because you chose the wrong one. I got triggered because I thought I was being a total ungrateful wife. Let's just call it what it is and start speaking truth over each other. Because the goal, right, is to identify the trigger so we can come back together and to work through some of these things. So that's what we did. We hold on, let's take a time out here. And then we hate the washer and dryer, but we both feel like we're okay moving forward.
Yeah, we sold that house.
Yeah.
Well, when you're spinning into that, like you said, the crazy cycle, Greg, the only way out and the way home, which you both have kind of mentioned, is humility. Trusting God and others with me, trusting, in this case, trusting Greg or trusting Aaron. So let's pause and step back, realizing, oh, they're not my enemy. My spouse is not my enemy. Let me step into trust in who I am. Because like you said, I was creating I was living from a false identity. And lean back into what's true, and lean back in move towards each other to trust. And that sometimes, oftentimes takes a pause.
Yeah.
I think of our garage story, our garage cleaning story.
Yeah.
Which Monique asked me today we're going to clean the garage. Okay, so I started into it, doing some sweeping, blah blah blah, and I'm thinking I've swept it up pretty good, and she's going out doing her part and her thing, and then all of a sudden I look over and she's sweeping where I had already swept.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what are you doing? And you remember what you said?
Yeah. I don't know if I remember what I said exactly, but the prior part of that story is I think I went out to the garage first. And I think what typically happens is I'm the suggester of the cleaning of the garage.
Sure. Yeah.
You like that? I said that, the one who suggests it.
Yeah.
And I think I get that false narrative kind of. I think what I really appreciate about what you said, Aaron, is naming it, getting very specific. And then Greg brought up how you guys kind of have a mutual trigger going on. And you had mentioned when we were in Montana something around abandonment, I think. And so when Aaron shuts down, you're a pleaser, you're abandoned. So you kind of see that cycle. And I think seeing that cycle, being able to name it, helps you then go, okay, what's going on? And I think for me, the story that I grew up with often was, it's up to me to figure out life on my own. Wasn't intended. I had loving parents and so forth. But so sometimes when there's a project, i.e. the garage cleaning, and I'm the main suggester of getting it cleaned up. I can go out there and just start sweeping around and just kind of having a big fat attitude, right?
And so I had already swept, and I look over and she's sweeping the same area that I already did. And there, I was immediately triggered. I just went boom, ballistic, because again, not heaping condemnation on my mother, but my mother would do that. She would do exactly.
She would follow him up on anything he did.
She would follow me, whether it's trimming ivy around on the chain link fences or whatever. and she'd come in after me.
Yeah.
And I, like you, Greg, said, "Oh, I must not be good enough. I must not be enough. I can't get this right."
Yep.
There goes the narrative.
Well, and I think it was just like I was wiping down something again. I think it was even one of our exercise machines, and I wasn't even upset. I wasn't even thinking, "Oh, how come this wasn't cleaner?" I was just independent. I'm like, "No, I'll just wipe up around the corners a little bit more." I wasn't mad or frustrated. So when I got his reaction, then I became mad and frustrated.
Right.
Because then I'm like, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying anything. I'm just cleaning it a little bit more. What's it to you, right? And I just got up here, and we were like, "Zzz."
And my reaction was hysterical.
And so was mine at that point. Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I think just to kind of wrap this up, I think it's really important that we remember, to your point, well, Aaron, you're talking about identifying, naming it, and then you were talking about steps to rebuild trust. I think being willing for each of us in our marriages, and this can apply across all relationships, right? But specific to our marriage, just being willing to hit that reset button to kind of go, okay, wait, could we just like walk out the door and start over, or could we start that conversation again? Or, gosh, what is my reaction telling me about myself? Just kind of that step of humility, being open to, rather than kind of going into that gridlock where we hold the grudge, we sweep it under, like you said, Aaron, or we shut down, or Greg, you like hyper focus into pleasing mode. And I think that's the way to step off that hamster wheel, so to speak, is.
I think too that process, like you were just alluding to, Monique, of saying, like, coming from a place of humility, in that reset button for us, one of the tools that we've used is the story in my head. And so we'll stop and just say, and what this does is it takes now we're in the spiral. We've both triggered each other, and we're starting the, and if I can stop it by saying, okay, here, it's not an accusation to the other person. This is what's going on actually in my head. If I can be really honest, if I can actually try to be vulnerable and authentic with you, and if I can try to actually identify the feeling, right? That's a trick in and of itself. Can I actually identify my feeling? What is actually causing this trigger? And in that place, a lot of times when we bring that to the light, the other person gets a glimpse of what I'm wrestling with. And even if that what I'm wrestling with might be accurate, I might be in the wrong, I might be, at least they can help confirm, or in a lot of cases, no, that's not at all what I was thinking. I didn't want you to think that or feel that way. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. You are honestly an amazing woman who cares deeply about me and our family, and you're not too hard to care for. You are not that washing machine. And you can make sense of it.
Well, I was also going to say it gives you a second to empathize. Like for you, Vic, like the little boy that actually like didn't feel like his mom really trusted him to do a good job. For like me as like his wife, I can go back and go, oh, I can empathize with 12-year-old Greg that he didn't really feel like he was enough. And so this is coming out. So it's like we get to really meet, if we're willing to really be known, which is scary, even in marriage sometimes. But if we really are, then it invites us into their stories and their past and those moments where some of those triggers were actually developed and started. And so if we can go back to the origination, like where did this feeling of I'm not enough come from? It was probably a really long time in your childhood where something happened that you're like, I never thought about that. And it just gives you empathy and compassion to move towards your spouse instead of just getting angry and being like, whatever. Because you just empathize with that little kid that just didn't ever have that chance to, feel like he was enough.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I love that. I love the reality that you can now move towards one another. And like we've all talked about in all of these grace truths, wherever we've discovered them in the Trueface resources and beyond, we know now that because I've been made new, I can move towards you. I get to move towards you instead of letting something
Yeah.
separate us.
Yeah. He just took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. We're passionate.
That's because that's just because we're one.
That's where, yeah. I guess
the one.
Yeah.
It's the oneness thing.
It's working through all those triggers.
Right, there you go.
I think just we're passionate about that at Trueface, right? Like we read about new identity, we talk about grace. What does this look like? And so this is an application in our marriage and walking through these, exactly what we all just discussed. And just near the end there, even, and Greg, you alluded to it, and Vic, just comfort. There's a degree of comfort there. We're moving towards each other, not making each other pay, because that's not how God treats us, right? He delights in forgiving us. So beautiful.
Yeah, that podcast that they said, something that just I listened to and it just caught me was that you are your spouse's, like you're the imago Dei of Christ to your spouse. So I'm the image bearer of Jesus in that moment of the trigger or the uncomfortable or the hard conversations where I get to be Christ, like, right, have Christ through me, like loving and compassion and self-control and some of those things where it's like, wow, I love that, because I don't always think that I get to be the image bearer of Christ in the moments of triggers with my spouse. But when you kind of think of that, like I get to partner with Jesus and how I'm going to respond to this, it's like, oh, okay, like I can do that with him. Like Aaron probably going to be not so great. Jesus and Aaron maybe will be better.
Yeah.
That's a good little.
And when
they said.
And when we do all get wound up, and we all will get wound up, instead of going back to that room of good intentions to try to fix one another, we go, no, that's not us.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're not going there. We're going to move towards each other in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. And for everybody listening, you've heard us reference different Trueface materials and things, other ministries that we have in the Marriage Collective. So I encourage you to go check out the Marriage Collective. The podcast that we were referencing was from Dan Allender, Triggers in Marriage. So you can get more goodness there. So we know you guys need to get off to another meeting. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day in Billings of moving, which we didn't even get to the whole moving piece. Maybe that's another conversation talking about your move. So,
yeah, we'll save that for in case you got any more of these little marriage dialogues you'd like us to. You just keep that one in your repertoire, because we got a handful of stories there that are like, oh boy.
Yeah, we have so many triggers we could talk about. I'm sure everybody can. So just put it on a list.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know it's a trigger until someone's like, this happened. You're like, oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah.
So it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not crazy. We're not alone. Yeah.
We all have them. We just got to name them and ask Jesus to meet us in them.
That's right.
So good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys too. We're due for another trip soon to Montana. So thank you for joining.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.